Hello, fight fans. How are you doing? Welcome to another edition of Wet Boxing 101, podcast number 10 on this Thursday. That's right, Thursday night. And like always, we are coming to you by way of the installations of Warriors Edge Boxing Gym and Promotions. I am your co-host, Luis Trevino, also known as Turi. And we're live streaming here right now, as raw as it gets, here from the boxing facilities of Warriors Edge, 3565 Lee Boulevard, Suite 233. We have a huge show, guys. And don't forget, we want to hear you. Comment on our live stream, live chat right now. You want to chat with our co-host tonight? Go ahead, let me know what you think. Or simply drop us a hello or visit us at www.warriorsedgeboxing.com. And like always, guys, if you miss any of our podcasts, go back tomorrow in your office, at your lunch, on your way to work, and listen to our podcast if you missed it tonight. So before we get into the swing of things, guys, and like I said, I do have a huge show, and like promised, I'm going to bring in the best of the best, because Webb is the best. We're going to bring the best of the best people, and you know what? I am going to bring the best, and I can attest to it tonight. So, and we have questions for this gentleman. But before we get started, folks, on a sadder note, I do want to dedicate the show to my good friend Peter Herrera, the deputy that got shot and killed a couple of days back. And if we can have a moment of silence for him on his behalf. So, a moment of silence. Rest in peace, brother. Rest in peace. I don't get it. You know, folks, the violence, it's just unheard of. There's people out there that have the capabilities of causing harm. And you know what? Evil exists. And to all my brothers in uniform, in law enforcement and corrections, all my first responders, stay safe, be careful, and know that El Paso as a whole really, really supports you guys. So thank you for what you do, man. I really appreciate it. So let's get right into the swing of things. We're going to go to the Reno, Nevada Nationals qualifier that was happening last week. Last week in Reno, Nevada, it was, let me tell you, man, those kids that traveled out there did an outstanding job. And I want to say, just my hats off goes to Santos Sanchez from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Jacqueline Olayo Munoz from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Andres Perez from El Paso, Texas, as Andres Perez advanced to the championship round, and he will be qualifying to go a little bit farther. Also, my hats go to Jesus Armendariz from El Paso, Texas. Kayla Gomez from El Paso, Texas, the junior female at 106 pounds. K-Dot, Kevante James, the bantamweight at 60 pounds. Moises Rodriguez from El Paso, Texas. My hats go off to them. Victor Aranda from El Paso, Texas. Jorge Tovar from El Paso, Texas. Cristobal Chavez from El Paso, Texas, as they went far. John Medina as well, from El Paso, Texas. Victor Aranda, Jorge Tovar. Aranda went all the way to the championship round. Moises Rodriguez all the way to the championship round as well. Andres Perez again, and his Kayla Gomez. A big many thanks to those fighters that went out to Reno, and they just, gave it all they got. I mean, these kids fought their hearts out. And you know what, folks? After 6 days of over 750 boxers stepping into the ring, the final 20 champions were crowned at the Grand Sierra Resort and Casino. The evening started with 7 youth bouts, and to warm up the excited crowd before 13 elite finalists closed out the week-long tournament. It was a huge show, 5 to 6 rings. It was awesome. Every elite boxer that stepped into the ring tonight will have a secured spot for the 2020 Olympic trials in boxing this December, and that'll be fun to watch as well. And all the fights were live streamed through usaboxing.com, so that was awesome. Highlight bouts of the tournament included Adrian Tillman from Colorado Springs, Colorado, the victory in the lightweight division, which qualified him to be the second weight class at the Olympic trials. And you know what? That's what they go to for those Olympic trials. And the return of Danielle Wolf from San Diego, California, which is a 3-time USA boxing national champion, competing in her first national tournament since the 2015 trial. So my hats go off. And next week's show, guys, I'm going to have the champs here. I'm going to have some of the kids on the show that travel to Reno. They're going to come back and share their experience with us. I also forgot Ivy Enriquez, outstanding fighter. She also went to Reno and competed. Hello to everybody listening to me on the live chat. Well, our co-host tonight is Mr. Cristobal Chavez. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Luis?
And I'm doing good. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you, Chris.
Yes,
Cristobal Chavez is a professional MMA fighter. That's right. Professional MMA fighter. As tough as it gets, folks. Good guy. If you would see him on the show, you wouldn't even think he was that tough, but he's a tough guy, man. I can see him right now. Tough, good guy. But Chris, thanks for being with us.
No, thank you for inviting me.
And I know you're busy at the gym, and I know you have a lot of people listening to you, so I want to thank them also.
I hope so. I hope they're listening.
Good, and I'm glad that they're listening. So we'll get to the questions, but Chris, we're talking about the Reno, Nevada. We had a lot of kids go out there and compete in boxing, and I think you know what it takes to train, right?
Yes,
these kids.
Definitely.
And we're gonna ask you, what it takes to train at those levels, at the amateur and the pro. But before we even get started, Chris, and we want you to chime in on what I just found, okay?
Yeah.
This was brought up to my attention from sportskita.com. And this individual sent me this, and he said the 5 reasons why MMA is killing boxing. Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to put you on the spot. Of course not. But I want to go over some stuff that we read, and I did some research. And again, let's remember that the views and expressions and information out of this next article is not the views of the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu or Warriors Edge Boxing Gym. The following was sent by an individual that sent it to me today on my email from sportskita.com. And it's a writer's column. It's pretty cool. And the reason why I even brought it up is because in the past, Chris, we've had people guest on the show, and we talk about what's happening to boxing. And one of the things I had said about boxing, Chris, is that I think boxing is taking a back seat to other sports because now there's sports for everything. I even said, man, they'll find a sport if you jump off the roof. God, that's an X Games sport. The one that jumps off the tallest sport, that's a triple X sport or double X sport, right? It's crazy. There's so much sports out there, right? So MMA comes in, and MMA is an old sport too.
They have poker on ESPN now,
right? Yeah,
for a while now.
And that's even more than boxing, right? But boxing is taking a back seat because back then in the days it was baseball and boxing. Muhammad Ali era, everybody saw those heavyweight fights. Then we had baseball. It was not much of the tough enough competition. That's how MMA started, something like that. And now MMA's here, and now it's taking over the contact sport and leaving boxing at the end. So when I was reading these articles, there's top 5 things why it's killing. I kind of agree with some. I don't agree with everything, Chris, because I'm a boxing fanatic.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell your opinion's a little bit biased, and mine may be also.
All right, we'll give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
And before I get personal with you on the questions, let's go over. So the increasing popularity of the sport MMA, combined with the dwindling influence of boxing in recent years, has sparked endless debates pitting MMA and boxing against each other. In spite of being relatively new as a business, not as a sport, because it goes back to the Greek years, right? Greek mythology, all that. In comparison to boxing, MMA constantly keeps taking the spotlight away from boxing. And it does take away from boxing, all right, the spotlight. Do you think so, Chris?
I agree. I do, because, and I don't think it's the boxer's fault or anything. I think it's just the matchmaking also. Promotion companies are too busy. They want to protect their fighters, their star fighters, too much, and just, give them that record that they have so many wins and, they're knocking out or just beating so many people. And everyone already knows who's going to win most of the time during these big events.
From these big events. So
in boxing. And a lot of the times, Now they go to a decision all the time, and in MMA, it's definitely not like that.
Oh man, woo! We're cooking now, right? And you're right. And look, man, I'm gonna give these fight. And I read it, and I was reading, and I was researching it closely, and some of it makes sense because man, boxing is complicated. It's very complicated.
MMA is more.
Well, let me tell you why it's complicated. Let's go for number one, the weight classes. Okay, listen to this. One of the most essential transitions in the weight division history of boxing takes place in 1960, owing the split between the World Boxing Association, the World Boxing Council, which is the WBC, that led to the creation of the multitude of weight classes that has given us current boxing model as of 2019. Now, speaking of weight classes, there's just too many weight classes in boxing. There's too many of them. Too many belts, too many organizations, too many politics involved. All these WBA, WBC, WBO, they have their own agendas. And I think that's what's tainted boxing.
It's weird because on the flip side, in MMA, there's the argument that we want more. Well, not we, but there's a big push to have more weight classes.
In the MMA world.
In MMA world, yes. And there's more and more federations, or not federations, companies like the UFC and now Bellator, and other companies that are growing up bigger, and those promotion companies don't let them fight amongst each other. Mm-hmm. There's the UFC champion, the UFC roster, but they won't fight the Bellator fighter or the Bellator champions. They each want to be the top. So UFC is the top. They have the best fighters in the world. Bellator is kind of like known as they're not, right? But now they're getting a lot of ex-UFC fighters or fighters that are kind of, they want them to be up to par, be considered up to par with UFC, to maybe eventually have champions that are both Bellator and UFC champions.
Wow, so that's happening now.
It's weird because it happens now in boxing, and you're saying that may be the problem why boxing is getting boring, or what are you saying? Boxing is getting beat by MMA.
Yeah, boxing is taking a back seat.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just the purity of MMA. It's more of what an actual fight is. Boxing is just a limited form of fighting, which just involves two weapons, your hands, and MMA involves hands, elbows, knees, wrestling, takedowns, submissions.
It's a multitude of techniques and arts.
There's more ways of winning. And you only get a certain amount of time during the day or throughout your whole camp to train certain things. So you could be the boxing ex-boxing champion that also learned wrestling, so he can be taken down and he could be boxing the dude up, while the other person is becoming the really good wrestler that still wins a takedown, or kickboxer. Maybe he was a karate champion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's how MMA started. I remember with was it Royce Gracie?
Yes,
Royce Gracie, and he was in a ghillie suit.
In the
guillotine, what do you call it?
No. In the kimono.
And I'm sorry if I insulted anybody. What was it called again?
Guillotine is a submission.
Oh, what was it called?
It's either considered kimono or a gi.
A gi, and we knew what he knew, and then he would fight a boxer with boxing gloves, and that's where it was.
He had one boxing glove.
Yeah, one boxing glove. I don't know why
just one.
Well, going back to the weight classes, in addition to several weight classes with narrow gaps between each other, was a gradual process that again helped top organizations such as the WBA and WBC crown multiple world champions, and thereby increase their income by way of humongous amounts of sanctioning fees for boxing matches involving aforementioned for world champions. The business model helped turn boxing, that was already a lucrative business, and it's always been, folks, into a multi-billion-dollar industry, as it's all about the money. However, it's this very model that has created the mishmash of weight classes that boxing suffers from as of today. Professional boxing in 2018 has, wait for it, 17. Guess how many weight classes it has? 17 weight classes, guys. That's right. Gone are the days when all we had to remember as fight fans were the lightweight and the heavyweight division. 17 weight classes. That's crazy. On the other hand, MMA boasts an excellent division of weight classes. MMA's simplicity in the weight category aspects trumps boxing mishmash of unnecessary and confusing weight classes. Do you agree?
I agree there's way less weight classes, but it's hitting me also. I'm just considering what would change if there was less weight classes in boxing.
Well, you wouldn't. I think people lose interest, or let me tell you, I think people just get confused about all these weight classes that boxing has.
But I think that's more of the hardcore boxing fan.
But a hard, it'll turn you off because it's not simple. You know, I know in MMA they even teach you, as you see an MMA fight, they teach you, okay, he's doing this submission, he's doing that, and boxing is not educational no more. There's just too many weight classes, too much mishmash, and there's too many weight classes, and everybody. And from what I was reading here, it says that boxing has, like, for example, right now in the WBC, I believe there's 2 of them. You know, and you're like, is it a Canelo or who is it? You know, there's 2 of them. I remember, and in the WBA as well. There's a forerunner. There's the champ. There's
even though Triple G beat Canelo, right? The first time.
Oh yeah. What about the second time? Of course, Canelo beat him. You think they'll ever fight again?
Yeah, of course they will because of the money.
Yeah, I like Triple G too.
I love Triple G.
So going back, weight classes, there's too many, and in MMA, it's pretty simple. So we agree with that, and I kind of agree with it. You know, and I know,
but I think the purity of the actual fight in itself is what makes MMA beat boxing as an attraction.
An attraction.
Because there's not many knockouts anymore. There's no blood going all over the place anymore. So, and in UFC or in MMA, there is a lot of stuff going on.
But also you see in the MMA, you probably see some of them knock out or don't knock out, and then that's all you see for a while, and then they're submitted on the floor for like a couple of minutes, and can that also turn off people?
Yes, the uneducated mind. Yes,
not the hardcore MMA fans.
Yeah, they get turned off. But I think the MMA has grown from that already. When at the beginning people are like, they're just hugging each other on the ground.
I've heard of that.
2 sweaty guys hugging each other on the ground. I think we're past that. And where people are yelling, stand him up, stand him up. No one really does that. And I think it's because of Joe Rogan. He's a black belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And he is very well at explaining all the positions and transitions that are going on in the ground.
And he is. He's educational.
In the most simple way for the person that doesn't really understand.
And I think him being that instrument of education to people that are new to this helps grow the MMA and get a fan base there. Right.
You know what also may help boxing? The difference also is in MMA, professional MMA fighting, the rounds are 5-minute rounds. And they're 3 5-minute rounds, and if it's a championship for a belt, it's 5 5-minute rounds. Wow. And in boxing, they're 3-minute rounds or 4. 3-minute rounds. Those are short.
It's 12.
We do
12 rounds.
We do 12 rounds, but they're 3-minute rounds. 3-minute rounds are very short. We do 3-minute rounds in amateur level.
Amateur.
Yes. So what if they made the rounds longer for boxing?
Man, it's already brutal. I mean, I think if we would make them longer, Chris, I think we'll turn off more people.
What if it's the same amount of time? 3 times 12 is 36?
It used to be 15 rounds.
Or more rounds, right? That's right. It
used to be heavy 15 rounds, and they cut it down to 12 because of the safety. So let me ask you, is MMA safer than boxing?
Yes.
In what way?
There's not that many rounds, and we don't get punched as many times. And also, in boxing, people get knocked out 2-3 times in their fight. They'll get knocked out, boom, dropped. And then the guy stumbles to his feet. He gets 12 seconds or 10 seconds to get back up on his feet. And they're, are you good? And then he's like, all right, yes, I guess. All right, keep going. And then, boom, the guy comes and knocks him out again. And then he saves the round ends. Okay, here he goes to the next round. And then, what if he survives another round? And 2 rounds down, he gets knocked out again. In MMA, if you get knocked out, you don't even have to get knocked out completely. You could just get dropped, and then you start getting overwhelmed with shots, and they're going to stop the fight. You don't take that much damage.
So it's quicker. Stop. You don't get that much damage.
Yes, it's quicker stop.
Let me go to the live chat real quick. Let me go to those live chats. Fuentes, hello. Chochi Peña, hello, compita. That's what he was saying. Richard Garcia, he says, what's up, Tree and Coach Chris Mosquito Chavez. My 7-year-old goes to the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, nice. Keep them coming, Tree. Blessings. Juan Silva says, great show, Louie. And what's up, Coach Chris?
What's up, guys?
Jenna says, hi, Tree. Gia and I are listening. Hello to everybody. Richard said, Triple G didn't beat Canelo. Come on, guys. Get it together. I think he did.
I'm glad I said that because I wanted to stir up a little bit of controversy.
Good. Come on, guys. Get on your live chats. All right, number 2, why MMA is killing boxing. And this is, again, nothing to views of the Warriors Edge boxing facility. That brings us to the all-important point of organizations and promoters in boxing and in MMA. It's essential to understand that the difference between the core of the business models of boxing and MMA. In boxing, folks, it's the alphabet organizations. We've always been known as that. WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO, et cetera, right? Reserve the right to sanction fights between the top professional fighters. And that's what killed boxing, too. They reserve the right against each other, right? Apart from the permits from the state or National Athletic Commission, and again, depending on the rules of the nation that event is taking place on, the aforementioned boxing organizations also play a key role in the organization of pro boxing bouts. A key role. On the other hand, it is a prerequisite for a boxing promoter to be free of any business association with those alphabets, the boxing organizations. This in turn is another aspect of boxing where corruption and politics play a huge role in destroying the sport. The biggest example of boxing promoter influencing a major boxing organization is that of Don King and the WBC. And I remember, in fact, boxing pundits and fans alike have called WBC president, the late Jose Suleiman, as Don King's puppet. Again, this is what we read. Several instances of favoritism by the WBC for King's fighters have come to light over the years, to include Roy Jones Jr., awesome fighter, or even Julio Cesar Chavez, and many other boxers that were at the time promoted by Don King. Don King also infiltrated a lot of this corruption because of that. Furthermore, top boxing organizations such as the WBA and WBO, have more than one champion for each weight class in their organization.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying now. It's that there's no like storyline to be able to follow. There's just so many things going on. Like, he's a champion from this, he's a champion from that.
Well, I'm the WBC president, and you're my compadre, and your son's good. Well, just give him here's the belt. I guess, right? Let that sink in. The WBA has a super champion, okay, / unified champion, a regular champion, and the interim champion, all in one weight class. That's the truth. Okay, and so it's crazy. Let's simplify this with an example. The WBA lightweight has a 175-pound champion. Unified champion is Andre Ward. Regular champion Nathan Cleverly, and interim champion Dimitri Bivol.
What's the difference?
Well, they're the weight class. It's just, again, they have the interim champion. They have 3. It's all about money, my friend. And that's just the WBA, the WBC, IBF, WBO, and several other lesser recognized organizations that have multiple champions in one weight class. And you know what? They don't even fight each other. What's more hilarious is the most of these champions never compete against each other.
See, I think that's what's killing boxing.
Of course.
That you have this champion that's really good, and you have this other guy that's really good too. But no, let's not fight him yet. Let's keep him fighting some other random guys and keep building up the record, and then later they'll have him fight.
And you know what? To add to this fact, most of these champions could be the number 5 and number 9 ranked boxers in the world, but are always promoted as world champions. Okay, confusing even longtime boxing fans like me, and driving away the young ones, the new fans. We want to bring them in, the new fans. Right. In stark contrast to boxing, MMA has a great functional dynamics of fight organization and fight promotion.
It's more simple.
MMA organizations and promoters don't have the prerequisites of being mutual exclusive. For example, top MMA promotions such as the UFC, Bellator, MMA, etc., promote the fighters as well as hand the fighters world title belts of the respective organization, folks. Right? And comment, guys. This brings transparency to MMA as compared to boxing. Furthermore, MMA has 2 or at the most 3 major organizations handing out world titles. In fact, as of today, the UFC world titles are widely regarded as undisputed world titles, and the UFC champions are considered the best fighters in the sport.
Yes.
Right? That's what it says here.
Yes.
Now, it also, this hierarchy of organizations of MMA have provided clarity to the MMA fans and pundits alike. Furthermore, each weight class and top MMA organizations have one undisputed champion. And in case the undisputed champion of the weight class is unable to defend his belt for about 6 or more months, most organizations in the MMA create an interim champion, or for that said weight class. For example, here's a real example. Conor McGregor, who won the undisputed UFC lightweight at 155 pounds, championship from Eddie Alvarez in November of 2016 declared a 10-month absence from competition, following which the UFC has scheduled an interim championship fight between Khabib and Tony Ferguson in March 2017.
Right.
So that's an example.
But then Khabib didn't make weight, or
Exactly.
he got hurt.
He
so
got
then
hurt.
Kukui fought.
He got hurt.
Anthony Pettis.
There you go. But again, it brings transparency. So
Kukui is 10th planet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. We
He's a
talk
black
about.
belt in 10th planet
Wow.
Jiu-Jitsu. He actually got his black belt, I think, like a month before I got my black belt.
Wow, that's awesome. So again, I'm reading these articles, and again, I'm not trying to like knock boxing. Of course, I'm just giving the facts, and that's why this podcast was created, to talk and bring a guest like Chris. But it's the organizations. Now you see that they can be all in the same organization. You know, one that is not mentioned here, Chris, is the ring title, the ring belt. You know that little belt that has red, white, and blue?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
That. From what I've heard, that's the true champion. If you have that belt, you're the true champion.
Oh.
It's not the WBC, WBO.
Not the green ones.
It's not even. Well, they're good, but they're different organizations, different presidents, different everything.
Who gives that other one?
It's Ring Magazine.
Oh.
And that's the true. And you know what? I go by.
Some magazine just starts giving.
Well, I go by the Ring Magazine True Champion. And that is the true champion. They have no politics behind it. They're true, and they give they award these belts to these fighters. The true.
Do they host events too?
Yeah, you'll see them all over the place. Not they host events, but for example, I remember when Canelo Alvarez had the Ring Magazine Champion, and he had that belt. That was awesome. So I always look for that belt.
And did he lose it or what?
No, I always look. He still has it. I always look for that belt. You know, whoever has that belt is, hey, for me, is a champion. Yeah, the other ones are a lot. There's just too many belts. Too many organizations.
Yeah.
Number 3, how about those undercards? Does MMA have stacked undercards?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
Sometimes the undercards are way better than the main card. Just people are hungry. They're way hungry, and just up and coming right now. UFC it's considered in its infancy as a sport, and before, like in the Hoyle Gracie days, it was actually just pretty much one martial art against another martial art. Now you're running into fighters that are Golden Glove winners, All-American NCAA Division I wrestlers, black belts in jiu-jitsu, and also kickboxing champions.
Okay,
all in one person.
So you're telling me that all the MMA fights are stacked?
Yes.
So there's not like, and you know what? I do see it. You know, I see these cards, and we pay enormous amounts of money for pay-per-view, and then we see a big card fight. Let's say Mayweather versus Cotto card, right? They really didn't have a stacked card, so we saw these unknown fighters. Crazy, and I'm paying all this money for undercards. So I think boxing needs a stack. And again, promoters. It's the promoters. It's the organizations. They need to stack these cards so we can see at least 5 good cards.
They want to protect their fighters too much.
Exactly.
It goes back to that.
Money.
Just make the fights happen.
You know, this last fight, the Earl Spence Garcia, they had a stack card. I really enjoyed it. But you know why I enjoyed it? I mean, I don't consider myself an encyclopedia of boxing. I'm learning as I go. I mean, but I kind of know a little bit of boxing, that I know some of the fighters. But to the people that like boxing but don't know, they're not going to be stacked cards. They're going to, well, who's this guy? You know, Benavidez was on the undercard. This kid is a phenomenon from Phoenix, Arizona. He's upcoming. They're not going to know who they are. So I always look for a stacked card in boxing. And they say that MMA routinely delivers stacked cards such as other UFC, Bellator. In the aspect of fight cards, MMA beats boxing on not one but 2 fronts, multiple high-level fights in the same card, and high-level fight cards every week. Is that true?
Yes.
There's always MMA fights.
It's every week, but it's getting to a point where it's almost every single week.
Let's go to the live chats. Yeah. It says here, Adrian Pineda said Warriors Edge Boxing. Let's go. Juan Silva said, Lou, you should stop by the 10th Planet on Saturday for a tournament they are having, and we'll talk about your tournament, Chris.
Oh, yes.
Richard Garcia says, in a nutshell, boxing was, is, and will always be a mafia. That is why WBC, WBA, WBO, and other junior belts were created. Too many egos involved. What do you think of that, Chris?
I agree. Ego is what always... It's weird because, well, I don't know if that's how it is in boxing, but in jiu-jitsu, it's about killing the ego, about not having an ego.
How's that?
Well, everyone's beatable, and you want to be humble. And you know what? I think more striking martial arts do have a bigger ego, because in practice you can never, or you shouldn't really go 100% when you're sparring at practice.
In MMA.
No,
in boxing, we don't go 100%.
Exactly, you shouldn't. So whoever wins.
So in MMA, do they go 100%?
No.
Okay.
But in jiu-jitsu, you do.
In jiu-jitsu sparring, you go 100%?
Yes.
Why?
Because you're not getting punched in the face.
Oh.
And as soon as you get caught, choked, you just tap.
Okay,
and then that's
okay.
it. And then it's always proven who is better than who during that match, who won that match. In boxing, you always have that edge of like, well, this wasn't a real fight, we're just practicing. So even though you did get beat, you kind of always have that, well, you know, so that's the ego. That's the ego right there, not accepting your loss.
And I'm going to point something out. Chris, you sparred before, and you were a boxer, right? Were you a boxer before? Oh, okay.
Never boxer. I
But
wish I was.
Oh, okay.
I've boxed.
So there is love for boxing in your heart.
Definitely.
Oh,
I grew up
great.
watching Julio Cesar Chavez at my house when I was little, like Chiquita Gonzalez.
Yeah, Chiquita Gonzalez. So you're a big boxing fan.
Definitely. I don't want to say big, but I do love boxing as a sport. I'm not huge into knowing all the names and all the stuff going on, but I do love it. And I've gone to my friend Jose Garcia's House of Boxing gym to go spar with him whenever I would be training for fights. And boxing is amazing. I think the person that's hit me the hardest during sparring has been a boxer. It's just, they're more planted onto their base. Their base is a little bit wider, and they put their whole body into it when they're punching.
So do you think it's always smart that an MMA fighter trains in boxing too?
Yes, at least a little bit.
A little bit.
Yes.
A stand up.
It can't be your main focus, because if you start, I've sparred boxers with doing kickboxing, just so I could just for fun, just to let them know the difference. Mm-hmm. And that wide stance, you're so anchored to put power behind your punches. When you start getting kicked in the legs, your stance isn't getting, you start getting worried about that. And in kickboxing, you're moving more. So when I first started just going out there to box, I was doing, I was used to my Muay Thai and my kickboxing stance. And, your stance is a little bit more narrow, and you're moving in and out of the pocket a lot more. And the boxers are just, you're just more chiller. You're just more hanging out, and you're just waiting. And you're
conserving more energy, maybe.
So there's a big difference.
Wow. And do you think McGregor, when he fought Mayweather, he needed more of a stand-up, huh? He didn't have it. He wanted to just clobber Mayweather.
Yeah,
you can tell.
He thought he was just going to outpower him and stuff. And
it's different, right?
It's just the
we knew who was going to win that fight.
Yes, of course. But the game plan was just so amazingly set up by Mayweather.
Really?
He just waited it out. He knew exactly what round to turn it up. Because in my opinion, I think Conor McGregor won like the first 3 rounds.
What?
Right, of that fight.
What?
You don't think so? He landed more shots. He was controlling the ring a little bit more.
I guess he was more. I guess he was more aggressive.
Yes, and Mayweather just let him get tired.
Well, he's smart.
Yes, exactly.
And folks, I like Mayweather. I'm not a big Mayweather fan.
I'm not a huge Mayweather fan.
Nobody likes Mayweather here in El Paso. There's very few.
A lot of people.
I like Mayweather. You know why? Because you got to remember,
people like him are people that killed boxing.
No, too. Wow, yes. Man. No, I don't think. What do you guys think, man? I think what happens is that Mayweather's smart, because in the game is do not get hit, and he doesn't get hit.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, I really like Mayweather guys.
Within the rules, like to win the game of boxing.
Yeah.
He's developed a strategy.
But maybe he's not fight friendly.
Yes,
fan friendly.
He's developed a strategy to win, right?
Okay.
But
good
he doesn't finish fights, and the fans like finishing fights.
Oh wow! Do you think he's gonna fight Pacquiao again?
Yeah, probably if the money's right.
It's all about money, huh?
I wanted Pacquiao to fight Lomachenko, but I think maybe Pacquiao's too old now.
Oh yeah, Lomachenko will destroy him. So you like Lomachenko?
I love Lomachenko.
I love Lomachenko too.
He's my favorite boxer right now.
Wow, man. Yeah, my son's like Lomachenko. I know.
That's who everyone
Tocayo,
should be.
Raise your hand, Tocayo. He's on the cameras. He loves Lomachenko too. We're big Lomachenko fans. Do you think he'll fight Garcia?
Well, Garcia already went up too much in weight.
He's going to go down.
Yeah, he should fight him.
Fight him, of course.
But see, why not fight him now? Like, fine, okay, fight him this next year.
Well,
they're gonna wait. Watch, he's not gonna fight him till like 4 years from now or 5 years from now, maybe.
5 years from now. Wow, that's a lot of time, man. But that's the fights we want to see.
Definitely.
Lomachenko, but maybe for belt. And you know what also gets in the way? The TV stations. Fox has his own fighters. HBO won't fight. Two HBO. Let's just say when if you guys were contracted by HBO, two HBO fighters were rarely going to fight. They're not going to fight. It was two contracted by HBO. They were not going to fight each other until later years down the road. It's like right now the Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder heavyweight fight. It's not going to happen. Of course not. I think Josh was fighting somebody else. And you're like, well, let the fights happen. And you're right. Exactly. Promoters. Right? Promoters are the ones that are killing. It's all about the money. So we talked about the stack undercards. Got two more. Number 4, I think you mentioned it, Chris, the exhibition of various martial arts in the MMA world. There's just so much stuff to see, right?
There's so many ways to win.
Boxing is more of a strike base, and that's all it does. It involves only the usage of boxing techniques. That's it. And on the other hand, MMA involves the usage of striking, grappling-based martial arts in his bouts, and MMA fighters are allowed to utilize a wide variety of techniques, ground techniques. Although boxing does involve the usage of the clinch, that is a form of grappling. Such exchanges are brief, but are quickly broken off by the referee. So, again, that's the exhibition, and you mentioned it. And number 5 is a straightforward presentation. MMA, you said it too, Chris, is simple, and boxing is complicated. We know that boxing and MMA are both sports, however. We cannot deny the sporting contests are driven by money as much as they are by the sporting aspect, and MMA is getting there too. The fight game is a business, and of course, it all depends on fan following. Yes. MMA beats boxing not in the flashiness, but in the informative aspect. And I had talked about it earlier that the announcer Rogan,
yes,
right?
Rogan.
He actually explains it to you
very well.
Very well. And in boxing, we don't have that. He explains what the fighters are doing, what technique is on the ground, right? So yeah, he just doesn't, right? It's not uncommon even for several top upcoming MMA cards on fight night. The MMA organizations present the event from the ground up. From the ground up, they present it. They're there all the time. And what I mean from the ground up, I guess it's the coverage.
Yes.
I mean, boxing does have coverage, and when they started doing that, Chris. Do you know what DAZN is? DAZN is a new channel, and they have a lot of MMA fights there. Okay. I think you're promised 85 fights a year. DAZN is a live stream. It's an app on your phone, and it's on TV. It's all live stream. It's what's killing the pay-per-view from boxing show. Great, I love it. Nice. It's like $10 a month, and you see 85, and they have Bellator, and you have UFC, and they have DAZN is teamed up with Golden Boy, Triple G, De La Hoya, Canelo. The Canelo fight coming up is going to be on DAZN. $10, you can't beat it. Damn. And DAZN.
So it's not pay-per-view?
No, DAZN. You can even put it on your phone right now. It's $10. First month is free, and I think it's $10, $12 a month, and you can see.
UFC has that. It's a UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah. Well, how much do you pay?
$10.
And you can see world title fights.
It has all the UFC fights. Well, all the past UFC fights that are not pay-per-view. Even the pay-per-view ones. It goes back probably like 6 months or so, and then it has jiu-jitsu tournaments. It has kickboxing tournaments. It has what else? I think it has boxing. No, I don't know if it has boxing. But it has kickboxing. It has other forms of MMA promotions, also like King of the Cage.
Okay.
And Combate Americas. I fought on those too.
Wow, and we'll talk about that. And you know what? DAZN, when I said it gives you everything, it gives you the undercard. I love it, man, because you see when they open the venue, the first fight, first 3-rounder, 4-rounder. You're seeing these kids up there, and I'm a boxing fan. I get to see, Chris, probably all the 14 fights.
Nice.
As opposed to you go to Showtime and you pay $90. The main event is awesome. Undercard sucks, right? But you get to see 3 fights for $90. What happened to the undercard? You don't get to see that. You don't. And DAZN, look out for it, man. You see everything. I really love it. That's one thing that's been killing that pay-per-view. Even though ESPN Plus and ESPN and Showtime still have that pay-per-view fee. But when DAZN came out, Chris, it's awesome.
Well, UFC's on ESPN Plus now.
Yeah, and I think it's Bellator, the one that's on DAZN. I got to double check. So I guess to end in conclusion, what I saw in this article, that boxing as of 2017 is confusing, 2017, 2019. The alphabet organizations, their multiple title belts, the excessive weight classes, the inter-organization politics, the corruption and the constant removal and reinstatement of several title holders, board members, have reduced the life of boxing fans. On the other hand, MMA, and it's simple, to the point approach. MMA has an adequate number of weight classes. Its champions are well defined. MMA presentation is informative. We mentioned that. With its commentators routinely giving the job of educating the audience. So, to the point, all in all, MMA presentation is simple and to the point. So those are the 5 that's killing boxing. Folks, can you chat? Let us know what you think as we go along with our show. And speaking of that, let's go to the live chat. We have Juan Silva says that Mayweather is the man. Defense. What do you think? No, Johnny, he doesn't say he's the man, Juan. You don't think he's the defensive?
Oh, yes, it's defensive man.
He says
yes.
defense. He's the man. Adrian Pineda said Mayweather, best defensive boxer of all time.
Yes, I agree with that completely. Yes.
Right? He didn't get hit with Conor a lot. He got clobbered top of the head like crazy.
Yeah, but Conor doesn't count. Conor's not a boxer.
Hey, do you believe him when he said he retired? Did he really retire?
No, I think he's just taking a page out of Mayweather's book.
Wow. I heard that he retired.
For the money now. He's just all about the money now. And, I mean, he's playing it smart. He's going to fight way less than a lot of other fighters, and he's going to be making way more money.
Do you think that Conor hurts the sport more than he helps it?
No, not more than he helps it, but he has hurt the sport.
How? In what way? He's a thug?
Yeah, all that drama he did with Khabib. I mean, I guess it sold the fight a lot. Everyone was really pumped about it, and then everything that happened afterwards. But he just, martial arts, like I said, it's all about being humble and about, losing the ego and being a gentleman and, representing it well. And now he's bringing it back to the shit talker, the thug, how you said, and he's going out there and getting in trouble now, for doing dumb things. And
that's crazy. I think it hurts the sport.
That does.
Big time.
But he's helped it a lot more.
More than hurt? Well,
yes.
Yeah, man, it's crazy
People
what he
are
did.
Making a lot more money now. A lot of fighters are making a lot more money. He's just made a lot more noise.
He's a lot more. I remember that show against Mayweather. It was crazy, man.
That was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous on both ends, man.
But we still watched it.
Yeah, you're right. We still sat and watched it.
We still
and
sat and watched it every single time.
You're right. Let me go to the live chat again here, Chris. Richard Garcia says, no, Coach Chris. All right, that's to you. Mayweather carried the sport along with Pacquiao when De La Hoya retired. With respect to Cotto and Richard, I love Miguel Cotto. I love that guy, man.
Yeah, I like Cotto too.
Mosley, among others, he didn't kill the sport. He didn't dodge anybody. So he's right. Mayweather didn't dodge anybody. He pretty much fought everybody.
He dodged Pacquiao for a long time.
Until he got old?
Yes.
There you have it, Richard. He dodged Pacquiao, but he fought him.
But yeah, he did carry the sport.
That was a boring fight.
Yes, he did carry the sport because there was no one else during that time.
Alina from Fight and Teach.
Oh, cool.
Says, hey, it's Alina. Of course, I'd be listening to this boxing podcast. It was my first love, but 10th Planet has grown my passion of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Alina.
Doesn't matter if male or female, it's anyone's game sometimes. Thanks for listening to that. So we'll continue on our live chats, folks. Continue chatting. We'll talk. So, I guess Conor McGregor did kind of. I think it hurts the sport. I really don't like the guy. But
why not?
Because he's too flashy, man. And all his antics, what he did, man, he should have been more professional. But that Khabib fight was crazy, man. There was people going over the cage. It was crazy. Yeah. It was a riot. It was ridiculous.
I got scared. I almost started rioting right there where I was watching the TV.
What were you going for?
I was going for Khabib.
Khabib, is he a better fighter than Conor McGregor?
Definitely. In MMA, yes, definitely. You saw it. If they fight again, I believe that would happen again. I was going for Khabib, but to be honest with you, I thought McGregor was going to catch him with his striking. Khabib's striking was not up to par with McGregor, and well, at least in my opinion.
What's the fighting style of Khabib?
He's a kickboxer from AKA, which they have a great team. That's where they have Cain Velasquez. They have Daniel Cormier. They have a really...
Oh, Cormier, yeah.
Yeah, they have almost all the champions there. Well, not almost all the time, but they have a lot of champions there. What's that? I'm really bad with names. But they have a really good team. And also, he's a really good wrestler. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a video of him as a little kid wrestling with bears.
No, never. Oh, no.
So he's a really good wrestler in
That's
sambo,
right.
sambo
I did
fighting.
see it. I did see that. Exactly. Hey, let me ask you a question. Chris, in the past podcast, we've been talking about boxing in high schools and how come it's not in high school. I know that people have said, well, it's too it might be hurting, too violent.
I think it's just a brain damage.
But what about football? I mean, it's the same
right.
thing, helmet to helmet. Do you think
Not just
MMA
that, not
and then
just that.
wrestling?
Not just that, all the torn knees that are all the football
Of
players
course,
have.
there's more injuries. In wrestling, there's a lot of broken bones. Do you think MMA will be ever introduced?
No.
It's just too brutal. You said it wasn't.
For high school, yes. For public schools and stuff.
Public school, man.
I think they
crazy
should have
kids
jiu-jitsu in there.
Oh, jiu-jitsu. There you go. I'm
Jiu-jitsu would
sorry.
be
I kind
amazing
of
to
mixed
have
them
in there.
Hey, what about the Olympics? You think it'll be in the Olympics?
That would be great. I think
I
that
think
would
we'll
be
lose.
awesome.
I think Brazilians will win all the time.
No, I don't know. I think the Americans
Chris, the
would win.
face you make.
It's just, if you think about it,
Jiu-jitsu started, the MMA started in Brazil, right? Or a form of mixed martial arts?
Yes, I guess you could say that, yes.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, it's just jiu-jitsu, and they focus more on the gi, but it's just jiu-jitsu. And now that it's reached the United States, a lot of grapplers, as a whole, it's developing a hybrid grappler that learns jiu-jitsu but is also a wrestler. And the wrestler is the one that dictates when the fight goes to the ground or not, and who has the top position most of the time.
Well, and I know in jiu-jitsu, in MMA, I mean, it also started with wrestling as a form of entertainment.
Yes, well, it was.
Of course.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that the first ever sport to ever exist before the ball
was
or the
wrestling.
wheel? It was wrestling,
and
just
then,
form of entertainment. Just see who takes each other down.
Of course, but then of course,
it's one of the rings on the Olympic
exactly,
logo.
and you know what? It just took another turn, and then
took it out,
Vince
didn't they?
McMahon just went crazy and
God,
did it as an entertainment.
I don't understand how people watch that.
Well, they do, man. I don't watch
millions, and there's
I don't watch
pay-per-views for that.
Hey, and you know what? Just to be I want to say hello to Sin Cara. I know he's been here. He's been here at the gym. Sin Cara is a top-notch guy from the WWE. He came out here and he helped a kid struggling with cancer.
Wow.
The kid, he was his biggest fan, and we invited this kid over.
Wow.
And he didn't know he was going to be here. Sin Cara shows up. The kid couldn't believe it, man. It made his.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he was awesome. But do you think wrestlers in that profession are athletes or entertainers?
They're definitely athletes because look at them. They're athletic, right?
Okay.
And to do those type of things, they're athletic, and most of them used to actually wrestle, right?
Yeah. Or they have some form of MMA,
just,
boxing.
What sucks is that wrestling before, wrestlers could only aspire to end up doing that to make money.
Okay.
Now we have MMA where wrestlers could, like Cain Velasquez, he was an NCAA collegiate wrestler, Division I wrestler. Now he just learned some striking at AKA, and he ended up becoming a UFC champion.
There was a time, I think last year, that I thought that MMA was going to be like boxing because I heard that it was losing fans. And then they had Brock Lesnar. And I go, oh, here we go. It's going to be a show now. Was that ever the case? And you think that was going to happen?
From what I learned from the history of UFC, that there's specials on the UFC Fight Pass, was that it was losing a lot of fans. It was going down until they became, I don't know why, I can't remember why, until they did the Ultimate Fighter. So the Ultimate Fighter was like that reality show.
Well, yeah, that sprung MMA.
Exactly. Well, that sprung UFC.
Oh, UFC.
Well, which kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, when they did the Ultimate Fighter, that saved the UFC.
Yeah, they did.
Because it got to know the fighters. It got to know what the type of person that a fighter was.
Or because you know what, everybody had that pre-notion that
this is just
it says brutal, and it was banned in some states, man.
Yes,
it was just brutal. It was just nobody saw it as a technique.
What are they calling it?
Cage dog fights. No?
Yeah, something like that.
So I thought when that came up, I go, oh, here we go. We're gonna see the Undertaker go over the cage, and here we go. Vince McMahon's gonna walk in,
and Cain Velasquez pieced him up. God,
right.
That was amazing.
Was it? Yeah, I'm not. You know what? I'm trying to get familiar with the sport, Chris.
I thought Brock Lesnar was gonna win too. I'm like, he's just too big. He's just too big and strong. And he was also a collegiate wrestler. Brock Lesnar. He was a really good wrestler. And then Cain just beat him.
Well, Chris. And look, and the questions are leading up. So, Chris, are you from El Paso?
Yes, I am.
Okay, tell us about yourself growing up in El Paso.
I was born and raised in El Paso. My dad's from Mexico City. My mom's from Juarez. Mm-hmm. And, I grew up watching boxing and stuff like that. And
what high school are you from?
Eastwood.
Oh, you're from Eastwood.
Yes, sir.
You're a trooper.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm a Bellarian. Arch rivals. So you grew up Eastwood area?
Kind of like Hank's area.
Oh, you went to Hanks?
Yeah. No, I went to Eastwood.
Oh, I mean, you live by Hanks?
Yes.
Okay, so you grew up Eastwood, and what else? What did you do, man, growing up? Watch boxing?
I played baseball. I did gymnastics, and I also played the violin since I was like in 4th grade.
You play the violin?
Yes, sir.
Jesus Christ, man. This guy can kill you with his violin, man.
It's funny because I always wanted to do MMA and fighting and stuff like that, but I was kind of like a troublemaker, and I would get into like fights at school and stuff like that. So I would always tell my mom, like, I want to do this. You know, this is what I want to do. And she's like, no, it's the typical.
Did you do wrestling in Eastwood?
No,
Why
I
not?
didn't. The dumbest reason. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was doing. I never wanted to wear the singlet.
Oh.
Now as an adult, I know that's the biggest mistake of my life. I could have, if I could go
You
back.
would have been better?
Yes.
Would have
imagine,
made you a better fighter?
I would have had 4 years of wrestling before that.
Wow.
But who knows? Maybe that would have taken me another way where I wouldn't have done jiu-jitsu. So.
Everything's done for everything's. You know, your life is scripted already.
Just like the
so exactly. So where did you start
effect.
your MMA?
I started my MMA here at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu El Paso when it opened in 2009. I was 19 until I could do it myself, you know, without asking my parents for permission.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So you go into the 10th Planet. Who runs the 10th Planet?
Back in the day, Master Victor Davila was the one running the 10th Planet.
Okay, and then you walk in as a young kid and he starts training you?
I started training. I thought I was going to start training MMA because that's what I wanted. I just wanted to start sparring and fighting MMA because I was a huge fan.
Okay, so how old are you?
I was 9. Now I'm 29.
No. How old when you started there?
19.
Okay, so you started seeing MMA on TV. It wasn't that popular, right?
It wasn't. It was like during the Matt Hughes era, BJ Penn.
You like Ken Shamrock?
Tito Ortiz.
What?
I was more on the Tito Ortiz side.
Oh,
it was
man.
Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock has a book, man. It's pretty good. I read it already. It's a cool book.
I think Frank Shamrock, his brother, is better.
Wow. Okay, so then you started seeing Tito and them. So then you went into this gym and you started training.
Yes, so I thought I was going to start training MMA, but they introduced me to 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and I just started doing Jiu-Jitsu, and ever since I started, I never stopped.
Wow. How old are you now?
I'm 29.
29 years old. So you get into the MMA. How many amateur fights you have in Jiu-Jitsu?
In MMA?
Yes.
I had 6 amateur fights for King of the Cage.
So is that a common practice for MMA fighters to have real low amateur fights? Because you have a fighter and they have like 100. Like you have a fighter
compared
that has
to
like,
boxing. Compared to boxing, they have hundreds, right?
Hundreds of amateur fights.
Well, not in El Paso though, right?
Well, we have kids. Well, we have kids that have up to 100 fights, 180.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We have like the Victor Aranda's. Like we have a lot of kids that have a lot of fights. I have some of the kids who have 69 fights.
Nice.
You know, but yeah, I mean, yeah, we would like to see more tournaments here.
There has to be.
But there's not because, well, there's not. You know, there's not enough support. And that's what we're.
But how much support do you need? You just need a place to be sanctioned, and let's just do this.
Well, there's a lot. Well, I don't know how difficult it is in the MMA. We're put in boxing. It's pretty difficult, man. We, from the physician, the venues, the ring setup, everything. Look, and then a lot of the kids go out of town to fight.
That's hard.
Very hard, but they do. I had a little girl come on my podcast, and she said, "I'm gonna say I don't know the right numbers, but kid has 80 fights." Or let's say 80 fights and only one has been fought in El Paso, and you're like, what? All 70 plus have been fought out of town because there's not that much. They used to be. Golden Gloves used to be awesome. It's not as good no more. And we talked about it. The venue, the support. Boxing, Chris, used to be at the rec centers where all the kids were. It's full of kids. We have great coaches out there.
They should still be able. They should find a way to make amateur boxing more.
The city, politics. The city, there's not enough in it. I promote a huge event called Clash of the Titans. Huge event. I even brought Mikey Garcia last year.
That's the cops versus firefighters.
Yeah,
like that, right?
the first responders. So,
nice. Yeah,
it's a lot of money. We have the Coliseum. But for an organization like the LBC, the Local Boxing Commission, it's hard, man. It's hard. We've talked about boxing as it's poor. A lot of the kids come from the streets.
Exactly. So how are they going to be going out of town all the time?
Exactly. And we need sponsors. So we need to bring up fights here.
So I have the same issue with jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
There's only there used to only be one local tournament here in town thrown by Hayashi's Dojo's on the west side.
Yeah, I know who he is.
They do it once or twice now a year at his dojo. So, I would have students that they're getting into jiu-jitsu, they like it, and I think competition is the best thing for everybody.
Of course.
Not just to become a better grappler or better at your sport, but it just builds character, being under pressure, being, having your parents there, having the build up, the nerves the night before. All
of
that
course,
thing
yeah, we
makes
see
them
those kids
better.
go through that.
Yes, that's great. That builds character. And, to have a kid like, well, I want to compete, like baseball. They play baseball. They have a game almost every weekend.
Every
all
weekend
season.
they have a game.
Football, all of the sports.
I just don't think, Chris, that boxing there's a lot of things happen for a match to happen. A lot of things. I don't know in MMA, but you got to have fight doctors.
Yeah,
you got to have a physician. They got to go through well, not blood work, but they got to get. And then
you guys don't do blood work?
No, not the amateur world, not at all.
Dang. So what if someone has like hepatitis or something?
They don't. They USA Boxing requires that the fighter have a physical, a sports physical. It's kind of intense. We got a form that it has a lot of check marks, but
how does the physical determine if you have hepatitis?
It doesn't. It doesn't. It just doesn't. But they don't get through. No, they're just a regular physical by a doctor. They get in there and they fight, right? But there's a lot of bells and whistles, the weigh-ins, the officials, and look, it's not the LBC. We do have the people, but we don't have that much tournaments here. I'll just tell you right. We have a tournament April the 13th. Okay, that's coming up. That's next Saturday. They're thinking of canceling because there's not enough fighters. Oh. And if you go to the gyms, a lot of kids are out there. There's a lot of kids that want to fight. Again, I think, again, like I said.
How hard would it be to have boxing and kickboxing?
Well, that was one of my quizzes I was going to ask you. You think we can coexist?
Yes, definitely.
And you have a cage. You put a cage in a boxing ring. Do you guys run through an association?
What do you mean? We run through a commission, and it's
a commission like us.
We're sanctioned by the same boxing commission.
Okay. What do you mean the same boxing commission?
Well, you guys are sanctioned by the Texas State Athletic Commission, right?
Well, you're pro. We're USA Boxing.
So you guys aren't sanctioned by the state of Texas?
Sanctioned by USA Boxing in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And we go through.
Well, we have to be sanctioned by each state athletic commission depending on what state you fight in.
Okay.
So the way
you mean an amateur fight
and pro?
A pro-am?
Yeah, pro-am or just pro. The way King of the Cage would go about it, and maybe that would work for boxing as well, is they would fight on the Indian reservations. So that would bypass all the state athletic commissions. So they would have another sanctioning body that would make it a lot easier, and then we would just fight on the Socorro. We would have fights at Socorro. We would have 14 bouts for King of the Cage. 8 of those were from my gym.
Wow. Well, Chris, and you bring a lot of good points. I mean, that's what I want to do. As a promoter, that's what I want to do. I want to and that was one of my questions. Do you think we can coexist and maybe bring in a pro-am fight or an amateur fight, both worlds together? I think we will have people there. Let's go to the live chat real quick. Herman Delgado is listening. A good shout out to him as well. He was a pro fighter as well and a coach right now. And he can probably tell me that there is kids in the gyms right now that want to fight and compete. Richard Garcia says that he fought at the Clash of the Titans 3 times. He'll miss it this year. Well, folks, we are going to take a break. 10 years as one of the premier boxing shows in El Paso. I am going to take a break this year. And we're going to come back next year even stronger. We got to top what we did last year in Making Mikey. We'll bring it. And there's other plans, guys, other projects. Like, that's why we brought Chris. And I want to also promote a King of the Cage. I said it. We want to promote a King of the Cage. So we'll talk about that as well. So tell me about your pro MMA career, Chris.
So I started my pro MMA career on King of the Cage. I think I fought 4 times in a row for them. I went 4-0. No, wait, I'm sorry. No, I just fought twice. I went 6-0 amateur, all of them on King of the Cage. And then I fought twice for them. And then I went and fought for Combate Americas in LA, and I won. And then I fought in Bolivia.
Wow.
Yes, and I fought in Bolivia. That was my 4th pro fight, and I went 4-0. And then I fought for King of the Cage 2 more times, and I lost those last 2 fights.
Wow. So what do you do for 10th Planet right now?
I'm the head instructor and the owner.
Wow. So you come in and you took charge of the place and you bought them out or what?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
7 years ago.
Right, and tell me where 10th Planet is located. You can tell all the fighters. I mean, every people listening.
We are at 1491 Lee Trevino, between Pelicano and Vista del Sol. We're right behind La Gorda or Steve-O's or Edible Arrangements.
Cool. All right, I know where that exactly is at. So you get to travel. That's awesome, huh?
Yes.
Training camp. Amazing. So your greatest accomplishment in the sport is what?
In jiu-jitsu, I won the Gracie National. No, I did. I got second place at Gracie Nationals and second place also at Gracie Worlds out in LA.
Wow,
LA and in San Jose.
That's a good name to be backed up by, right?
Yes.
So you're pro,
Yes.
right? Do you think you get the same exposure as far as celebrity status in El Paso like the Antonio Escalantes or Jennifer Hans?
No, definitely not.
Why not? And why not? I mean, how come? I mean, how come these you see and you do see it? We're saying boxing takes a backseat and all the time, but I mean, we don't. I know there's so many pro guys like you that need to be out there recognizing as well. Why do you think that's so? Is it the culture of El Paso or the educational side of it?
Well, I think just locally, boxing is still bigger than MMA.
So El
here.
Paso's a fight town.
Yes. Not comparable to Albuquerque, I don't think. Well, at least in MMA. But it is.
Albuquerque's big because they have that gym, huh?
Yes, they have
Or
Greg
Holly
Jackson's. They have Greg Jackson's,
Greg Jack-
and then they also have Fit NHB, and then they also have another one. I forgot their name, but they have really good. They have good quality fighters over there, and I think El Paso has a lot of potential. You know, we're mainly Mexican. We have Juarez right next door, and we have that fight mentality. We have that fight blood. You know, so
Yeah.
I think we have the potential to create good fighters.
So I think if we put the right people in the right places,
Yes.
a lot of things could be done.
Yes, definitely.
So tell me, how do you train for a fight? What's the duration of your training camp? The diets as opposed to fighters training camp, is it the same, or how do you train for a fight? I mean, how's the training camp going?
An ideal fight camp would be 2 months minimum. Ideal.
Okay.
I mean, during the sport, and I'm sure it's the same in boxing.
Do you
have
run
to
a
be,
lot?
You have to be fight ready all
Run?
the time. I was running for a while, but my knees hurt. So my knees are injured. So if I were to run on concrete, my knees after like a mile they would start.
But do you think, like in boxing, they say that if you don't run, you don't fight? Is that the same case in MMA?
No, it's not the same case.
Cardio.
I would run, but do some long term running, but more also short term running, like sprints or maybe do stadiums a lot. I would do that a lot.
Okay. Can MMA, jiu-jitsu, and boxing coexist? And we talked about it. I mean, what I mean is, do you think that in the future we will see MMA, jiu-jitsu, boxing shows together at the amateur level or pro?
I don't know with jiu-jitsu, but
MMA.
yeah, I think
Of course.
MMA and boxing, that would be cool.
We just talked about it. I mean, you think we can throw a show at the same venue, boxing, MMA together?
I've seen. Well, Pride used to be in a ring, and they actually find that more attractive to be able to see, because you could actually see way better when people are fighting in the ring than in the cage.
Yeah, but you know what? The cage is awesome.
Yeah, it does.
If you bring a cage, man, that's impressive.
And it's also a different game. You could actually hold someone against the cage, and there's a whole different wrestling aspect against a wall or against the cage. And in the ring, you can't be holding someone against the ring that much. They're going to go through.
They're going to go through, exactly. So it's more dangerous in a ring. I think you can go
well,
through.
you have to get pushed back or reset.
And it's higher, too. Yeah. Did you see Bernard Hopkins get knocked out by Joe Smith? He got knocked out flat out of the ring.
Yeah, the one that flew. He flew through that middle.
Yeah, Joe Smith. I think his name was Joe Smith or Joseph Smith. He retired.
That's
Bernard
right,
Hopkins.
about that.
So yeah, I mean, I would like to see that, Chris. So now tell me, why has El Paso, not hosted a UFC card?
I think our city's just too small still.
We do host big boxing fights.
As in,
we've had big fighters. We had De La Hoya at the Sun Bowl. We've had Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
How well did those events do?
Very good. De La Hoya, man, it was
we did
jam-packed, man. And we had Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight Lee, a good middleweight prospect at the Sun Bowl. Yeah,
That's
we
right.
had they tried to stop it because of I think Julio Cesar Jr. was dating with I don't know, some drug dealers, girlfriend, I don't know, something like that. What was the last thing I found out? Junior Vicencio just chatted and he said, when was the last MMA event in El Paso, pro or amateur?
In El Paso, if you consider Socorro, like the Socorro Event Center, El Paso, that was probably maybe 3 years ago.
Wow, so we haven't had one.
No, what they do is the Texas Athletic Commission is very hard to get through. So El Paso being very far away and excluded from the rest of Texas, you have to fly in all the people from the commission from like I think they're in Houston or in Dallas
Austin.
or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they're in Austin. You have to fly them all in, fly in all the DIs, all the deputy inspectors, all the people, all them. So it's
You mean for a pro fight?
even for amateur.
Okay.
And that's a big investment already for a promotion company to just do that first, and then later, and then also promote and also pay their fighters, and it's just not feasible. As a
So that's
small
what.
company.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why we haven't had a UFC like? Hey,
No, UFC 's
Joe
different.
Rogan, come on into El Paso at the Don Haskins Center, ladies and gentlemen. It is MMA fight night at the Don Haskins Center.
Maybe we need an El Paso fighter fighting in the UFC, and maybe they'll bring him to El Paso.
Well, or somebody like you to promote it.
What they do is we do have fights in Las Cruces because that's New Mexico, and the New Mexico State Athletic Commission is a lot easier to get through.
But
less
so
expensive.
I keep saying UFC. Is UFC the main money machine for
MMA.
mixed martial arts?
It's the biggest promotion company for
and
MMA.
the next one is
yes.
Bellator.
The next one can be considered. It's probably Bellator or ONE FC is coming up now, and that's from Asia. There's a lot more people and a lot more money over there, so that's growing a lot. A lot of fighters, well, not a lot, but a few fighters that were in the UFC have now been traded to ONE FC.
Wow. And you know what? I think if they would bring a big card.
Eddie Alvarez is now at ONE FC. Demetrius Johnson, the one that Henry Cejudo just beat, he's at ONE FC now.
I've heard of him. I think if we would have a card where one of those three money mega machines or corporations or associations, UFC, Bellator, I think if they would bring it here, it'll get sold out. I think so it will. I mean, because of Juarez.
I hope so, yes.
Chihuahua. I think it will. I just don't know why we haven't had the right people to do it. Chris, you're in the driver's seat. No pressure.
Let's do this.
I think you can bring in people, man.
Dana.
I think you can bring people out here and have a big. I think it will. I think just seeing that cage in the middle of the Don Haskins Center, or right now the big thing is the Southwest University Park where the Chihuahuas play. By the way, it's opening. Awesome. It's opening night tonight. The Chihuahuas are playing the Las Vegas. Nice. They opened the night tonight. Hopefully they're winning. But something like that. Just imagine. I mean, I don't know. Has UFC ever had an outdoor event? I've never seen a UFC outdoor. We'll be the first ones because the weather's fun in El Paso. It's awesome. Here. It'll also be awesome. But again, why don't we see it? I mean, we've seen big pro fights here, but UFC guys, I think we're that top caliber city already. I think we are top caliber city to host a big event like that. Do you think so, Chris?
I don't know. I hope so. I wish.
I mean, well, you know more than me in this sport, but
I just think Phoenix would be a lot bigger.
Yeah, but we got to talk to El Paso people.
Albuquerque. They've done Albuquerque, and you know what? Albuquerque's smaller than El Paso.
Exactly. We have more stuff here.
But see, they have Greg Jackson's where they have 4, 5, 6 fighters on the UFC. Same card.
Isn't Holly Holm from there too?
Yes, Holly Holm, Diego Sanchez, John Jones is from there.
John Jones. Yeah. Well, you know what? And again, look, I guess only you and probably other gyms are cheering. They probably have pro. Do you have a pro fighter in your gym?
Yes, we have a few.
I heard that you have a lot of pro fighters there.
We have
name a few. Tell me some of them.
We have myself. We have Jesus Urbina. We have Chris Pesero that he actually came from Corpus Christi, and we also have Kamoy Anderson that he's about to do his pro debut.
And where is he going to do his? And he's out of your gym.
Yes.
And where is he going to do his pro debut?
We're actually talking with Fresh Quest Productions out in Albuquerque, and that's going to be May 10th.
Would you let us know?
Yes, definitely.
Keep me posted, Chris. We would love to. We would love to help this kid go out there and give him all the support.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Hey, Chris, let me tell you, and all your fans out there, Warriors Edge Boxing, it's all about that.
Thank you.
It's not just about us. It's about people like you and your people. Okay,
awesome.
So you guys, Warriors Edge is here for you guys, man. Let me go to the chat real quick. Julian Marquez said this. It would be great to have an event of MMA boxing same day more often with El Paso, Las Cruces, and Juarez fighters. Because there is a lot of Juarez fighters.
Yes, Juarez fighters are tough.
They are tough, man. The Mexican spirit.
Yeah.
And there is MMA fighters. Is there MMA gyms in Juarez?
Yes.
You know any of them?
Yes, there's pro athletes. There's Ragnarok. Those are the ones that I know of. I can't remember any other ones, but they have. Pantera used to train at Ragnarok. Yair Rodriguez.
Pantera was the boxer?
No, he was he's a UFC fighter.
Wow.
The one that actually just beat the Korean Zombie in the UFC.
Oh. So, have you had any top? Well, your kids are the pro. Have you had any known fighters going to your gym
to train?
Yeah.
No. We've had people come in and give seminars. We had Harry
Like who?
Cejudo.
There you go. That's what I was talking about.
Came and gave a seminar.
Wow.
Goyito Perez
That's
came and gave a seminar also.
That's good. And I know you have a lot of people at the 10th Planet, right? Is this the only one in El Paso?
Yes, sir. This is
Good.
The
And what's the closest one? Because I know it's a chain, right?
yes, we're an affiliation. We have actually over 100 locations all over the world now.
Wow.
The closest one would probably be it's going to be in Albuquerque. There's one in Albuquerque under Nate Harris. There's one in Santa Fe under Luis Castillo. And there's also one in Phoenix under Anthony Burchak.
Cool.
There's one in Austin now with Curtis. There's one in San Antonio.
Well, it was only fit to have it in El Paso. Chris, I'm going to tell you again. El Paso can host a big card, right? And with 10th Planet attached to it.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, I can promote, man. Let's do it.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
So we talked about, folks, about why El Paso's not hosted it. I think it's time. I think it's time to have a big UFC card fight here. I think with that, folks, it'll help the boxing side too, because we've hosted some big fights. The last fight was the Devon Alexander fight here. We've had Victor Ortiz here. I know Devon came to the gym here and trained with us. It was awesome to see him here.
Is Victor Ortiz the guy that headbutt Mayweather?
He kissed him and headbutt him.
He kissed him also?
And Mayweather just knocked him out silly. Right?
He was doing good against Mayweather, actually.
Well, at the first couple of the rounds he was, and then he just I think he was the guy that could beat him.
I thought so too. Why didn't they run that again?
No. It was a debacle. It was a show. It was a circus that, like you said, that stuff doesn't help boxing. Victor Ortiz was gonna. Then he comes here, and he fights Devon Alexander, which I thought Devon won. And Devon was a class act fighter, man. He comes out here to the gym. Steve Cunningham was his trainer, ex-law enforcement. So he comes out, he goes, you know what, man, there's law enforcement there. I'm going to go train there, man. Top-notch guy. He even wore the Warriors Edge cap. So that was cool to have him here. We've had some pro fighters here, Chris. They come out here to the gym, and they like it because we have so many kids, man. You know. So tell us about the jiu-jitsu movement in El Paso. Any future plans for your gym? Any upcoming projects? What would you like to share with us?
So our school's growing a lot, and then it's the same thing that we spoke, that there's not a lot of local stuff going on. So I actually put together a tournament that it's actually going to be the 5th year that I throw. Me and a couple friends a friend that runs a CrossFit competition, a friend that runs a karate tournament, a friend that runs a NPC bodybuilding competition. Wow. We put together the Live Fit EP Fitness Festival, and it's at the convention center. So this is the 5th year that we've done it. And last year, I had over 200 competitors at my jiu-jitsu tournament. It's called the Desert Jiu-Jitsu Championships.
And this is where?
At the convention center.
Wow.
It's going to be August, I think it's August 17th, somewhere like mid-August.
You'll let us know?
Yes, sir.
Good, let us know. That's a future coming up, right?
That's big, yes. So what my goal is to eventually have a fitness festival like that, but not a fitness festival, have a martial arts expo. Or martial arts festival. So have a jiu-jitsu tournament, a karate tournament, some amateur boxing fights, amateur kickboxing fights, maybe whatever martial art there is. I know.
Have we ever had something like that?
We haven't.
So there you go. If you're listening to the LBC, that would be a great idea. I like that fact. Fitness expo or
whole expo of martial arts expo.
Why? Okay, yeah. Great. That sounds like a great idea. I think it'll attract a lot of people.
It'd be fun because you're watching there, you're supporting your friends to go watch amateur fighting. He's not up yet, so you go and walk around. MMA. Oh shit! Look at these guys kick their butt in karate. Oh shit! Look at these guys grappling. Look at these guys wrestling over
That's
here.
a great idea, and we've never had it.
We've never had that.
So in your August tournament,
nobody steal my idea.
So it's patented. And so in your August tournament, it's just going to be jiu-jitsu.
There's jiu-jitsu. There's karate, and there's CrossFit. There's NPC bodybuilding.
Let's put boxing in there.
There's powerlifting. Let's do it.
You do boxing. How do we get together with you? Just call you.
I know a guy. I know the guy.
Okay, well, let's do some boxing, man.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Let's set up the ring. We need a ring set up and all that, and let's just do a boxing tournament there. Look, man, boxing needs all the push it can get, and of course, look, guys.
Let's just stay active. It's all about staying active and finding
and helping each other.
Yes,
helping each other. We're not just we're alienated from karate, jiu-jitsu. Hell no, man. It's all
the same.
It's all the same, man. We're in the same line. So, what else? Tell us about this weekend. What's going on at 10th Planet this weekend?
So this weekend, there's another style of tournament coming out. There was a tournament called the Quintet in jiu-jitsu where you would get a team of five people adding up a weight. So I changed it a little bit. I made it just a team of 3. So the weight is 500 pounds combined weight between you 3. So it adds more strategy and more gameplay into how you're going to pick who your team is. So if you want a big 200-pound guy, then you have to, your other 2 guys have to be a little bit smaller. It just has to add up to 500 pounds. So then you face off. We set up the bracket. You face off with the team. It's not 3 versus 3 like those Russian fights. I don't know if you've seen those. Yeah. It's not that. It's like kind of like I like to compare and use as an analogy video games a lot because it works. It's easily understood by kids a lot because everyone's on video games now. So the first 2 guys, it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat or Tekken. So when you pick your 3 guys and then the first 2 guys meet. The winner stays, the loser goes out, and then you meet the second guy now. And then the winner stays, the loser goes out. If nobody wins, you're both out. So that also goes into strategy too. And the team that has the last man standing wins.
Wow! And that's happening this weekend.
We're having that this weekend at my gym. Got a few sponsors. So the first place winners get $200 each. Wow. So it's a $120 buy-in per team, which is $40 per person. Yep. And then the winning team gets $600, so it's $200 per person. And also, I had one of our parents. He owns a liquor store, so it's called Bottles of Liquor Store off of Viscount. Cool. And they gave us a bottle of Proper 12, Conor McGregor's whiskey for each one of those winners.
Really?
Yes. And then second place, they get a supplement package by Muscle Era. And also E4 rash guards. E4 gear is giving rash guards. And also, I forgot to say in the first place, they get MMA shorts too.
That's so awesome. So this happening what time to what time? What is
it's going to be at 10 in the morning at 10th Planet. And I don't know how long it'll end, but we're going to be streaming it live on Facebook as well.
That is so awesome. And what's the price? What's the cost?
Just to go watch, it's free.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
If you want to jump in, it's $120 for 3 people, 500-pound weight limit.
Go out there to the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Give me an address, Chris.
1491 Lee Trevino.
Well, you guys got to go there, support. What else is going on? Any future plans? What else besides the tournament that you're having for the 10th Planet?
It's just all about growing the community and getting people active and going out to compete. So now I'm on a mission of 2019 to get our city more known as a martial arts, just how you said that our city could do it. So we're going out to travel all the time. Last month we went out to the North American Grappling Association in San Antonio. Okay. We got 3rd place as a team, beating local cities from Austin and San Antonio. We got first place was 10th Planet Austin. 3rd place was us. Wow. We went to the Albuquerque one. We got first place as a team too, and the kids and the adults.
Wow, that's impressive, Chris.
Thank you. So, it just creates an amazing vibe when all the parents are going out there. Also, it creates more unity as a family, and all the kids are, they have great, amazing experiences.
So, 10th Planet's family
definitely
base, you like that? Yeah, Warrior's Edge, same philosophy. Last words, right, Chris, so you can tell the audience anything else you want to advice you want to tell the kids that are listening or any fight freaks out there.
Guys, just stay active. There's no problem that cannot be solved. Everything is beatable, and everyone is beatable also. But also stay positive and look at always the bright side to everything. You can learn from everything.
And there you go, Chris. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the future. Keep us posted on your pro fighters.
Yes, I will.
Any events. We created a relationship here with Warriors Edge Boxing Gym and Promotions. There you have it, Chris. Again, like always, a pleasure to have you here. And folks, this podcast was sponsored by Premier Uniforms and Tactical Gear, located at 4121 Montana at the intersection of US 54 El Paso, Texas. They specialize in uniforms, not only for law enforcement, for anything, hunting, for jackets, or anything. Tactical or non-tactical, they have it. They have everything, something for everyone. Go visit Hector and his staff, one of the friendliest in the town, or call them at 915-771-6600. Well, folks, it's been a great show. We went over a little bit, and I want to thank all the participants at Reno, Nevada for the Western Qualifier as they're getting ready. And don't forget, guys, please, teams out there, share it. April the 13th is the next USA Boxing Tournament. April the 13th at the El Paso County Sheriff's Region 8 Training Academy. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office Region 8 Training Academy. April the 13th. First bout starts at 2. If you need more information, Pre-matches are happening right now with Frank Guerrero. His number is 432-294-2645. Pre-matches are happening right now. 432-294-2645 for the April the 13th tournament. Submit your name, submit your fighters. April the 13th, Saturday at the El Paso County Sheriff's Region 8 Training Academy. So that's the tournament that's coming up. That's next Saturday. We're going to try to live stream it from the tournament. We're going to, Web Boxing 101 podcast will be there at the tournament. Also, the next show, we'll have the LBC president also on the show as well to talk about that and any future plans for that's coming. So, folks, that has been my show. I did miss my producer right now. My lovely wife is not here today. She's out with a cold, but I think I managed pretty good. I hope I did. With the sound, I want to thank my brother-in-law Julian also that helped me with all this, the buttons and the speakers and all that. Thanks to both of you guys because I bother you so much. Thanks for the Web Nation as well. Thanks everybody. And like I've always said, I'll see you next week and have a great week. But like I've always said, anything you do in life, you put God first. That's been my show. We'll see you next week. I'm out. Thanks, Fight Freaks.